Welcome to Letting Go with Aloha. Today, I am so honored to have the opportunity to interview Lindsay Kelly. You're going to just absolutely be amazed by this. I'm going to call her Wonder Woman. She's a certified life coach who coaches caregivers and people with autoimmune diseases through her online coaching programs. She gained popularity on social media for sharing her own story of being her husband's caregiver. He was diagnosed with progressive MS in 2019. And her mission is helping fellow caregivers and those diagnosed with autoimmune diseases to never feel alone or even fear the future. She and her husband have been married for 21 years and have 6 children. You must check her out on Instagram. Her name is Lew Kelly, Kelly06. And let's welcome Lindsay.
Hey.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I know you're very, very busy, and I just would love to hear what are the life lessons you've learned from this journey as your husband's caregiver?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I have learned so much. One of the main things that I've learned is to have compassion for people who my husband, when he got diagnosed, it was only affecting him mentally. So there was a lot of mental things going on, and it's helped me to have compassion that there could be people suffering all around us that I don't even know about because they're walking around with maybe a mental illness that they're suffering, or even depression and anxiety. And so it's helped me to have compassion on things that I might not know everything that I thought I knew before. So
yeah, that open-mindedness. So what made you start this, your mission to help fellow caregivers and those diagnosed with autoimmune diseases? Was there a particular
when
calling?
I started sharing my story on social media. And the reason why I started doing that, so I initially started on TikTok, and that was about nearly 2 years ago. When I started on TikTok, I had already gone through like 4 or 5 years of nobody fully understanding what was going on with my husband. Even neurologists and everything, they weren't very informative on what was happening. When my husband got diagnosed with MS, he was actually 17, but it turned progressive. He actually officially got diagnosed in 2019, but I've been helping him since 2013. So I didn't realize that MS affected people mentally. I started my care telling my story on social media so that I could help other people understand MS doesn't just affect you physically, it affects you mentally. And so that is the main reason I started, is just that when I started sharing my story on TikTok, I actually met like 6 other people. I think there were 5 women and 1 man that messaged me. I was like, I'm going through the same thing. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, there's other people who are going through this. And so I kept sharing my story. And now I have thousands of people who are like, I'm going through a caregiving experience too. And a lot of them are MS or an autoimmune disease that is affecting their spouse or their child or their parents mentally. So when I started sharing, the main thing was just to help others not ever feel alone. But now I've branched off into starting my coaching program for caregivers of loved ones. And that has been amazing to see the flood of people that have come into my program.
Wow. So what do you think people are looking for when they search search out for your services?
For my life coaching, I help people with their emotional management. So I'm a certified life coach through the Life Coach School. I help people manage their emotions surrounding the circumstances of having caregiving. And I have two different coaching programs. I coach people who have autoimmune diseases, and I coach people who are caregivers of that loved one. So I help people with the autoimmune disease manage their emotions surrounding the autoimmune disease. A lot of people join our program and they're like, I don't know, I don't want to be a burden on my spouse or my my relatives, whoever there is going to be caregiving for them. So they mainly are like, help me to manage my emotions around that. For the caregivers, it's like we feel so alone. Nobody understands what we're going through. We've all had to battle people not understanding the caregiver side of things and how hard it is on us. And so when people join my program, they're mainly joining for a community, for help with surrounding their emotions of the overwhelm and the exhaustion, the guilt that is associated with caregiving. And that, those are the main things, but there's various other things. Sometimes it's just other things that they want to be coached on.
Well, the guilt is real. And I think when you look at, 385,000 followers who are so loyal to you and who seek your support, seek your expertise, how do you deal with the guilt? Because I'm an only child. I remember feeling guilty for putting my mom in a care home, but I'm not a certified nurse. I had a lot of backlash from relatives and, friends who said, wow, you don't want to, do this? Isn't this your responsibility as an only child to, take care of her full time?
The guilt surrounding that, I think it's to each their own. For me, I did feel like, should I be doing this? Is this the right thing? But all I knew is that there were things that were happening beyond what I had to offer my husband. Not only that, I'm a mother of 6 children. And so I had to take in account how this is the quality of life that my children were having. We were all caregiving for my husband. And one of the things when it comes to a mental situation, you battle their ego. You battle, they still, like a child, you raise a child and they go from not knowing anything to all of a sudden becoming independent. When you are caregiving for somebody, you're taking somebody who's been independent at one moment and then having to try to not break their spirit, but at the same time, like help them understand where they're at. So for my husband, mentally, he started to decline. So he felt like he was the dad, but then his behavior didn't always match up to that. So I was having to find myself, making sure that my kids were safe and making sure that my husband was safe and making sure that I was safe from all the things. My husband also had short-term memory loss, so it was making sure that he didn't forget something, or just so much goes into that. So I think for me, there was a lot of, it was such a blessing that there was help like this to help me, and not just me. I saw my kids brighten up. And so there was guilt associated with it. But when I saw the quality of life that came back into my children's life, it made it all worth it. And not only that, my husband, his symptoms have minimized since he's been over at the assisted living. So it's not that he doesn't have them. They're just not as, his anxiety attacks, he was having them and the noise was causing them to be worse and worse and last longer. And now that he's over in a quiet place, if he needs to go back, he has somewhere that we can take him to. And there's a lot of things that have been good for him going over there too. He'll come home and he wants to go right back because he's like, well, I'm ready to go. They feed him breakfast, lunch, and dinner there. And I'm like, and if it's not served here at my house at the exact time he wants it, he's like, I want to go back. But not just that, just, it might get a little too noisy with kids laughing or friends walking in the door. So it's been a really nice thing. So as far as the guilt, I do feel guilt sometimes, but for the most part, when you see the relief in your own children as a mom, you're like, this was worth it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I saw my mom being cared for. I saw her laughing. And then, even with Alzheimer's, she's okay, you can go. We thought, okay, grandma must be happy telling us to leave.
Yes.
And being so well taken care of. And then we also, you said, you have more peace because you're not, I'm like, oh my gosh, where did grandma put the keys, or where did the homework be? Where are things?
Yep.
So I definitely agree with that. Well, let's stay tuned. We'll be right back, and Lindsay will share more about her journey. Stay tuned.
Mafe Management is a company dedicated to empowering individuals and businesses in PR and marketing, social media management, online show and podcast production, business consulting, graphic design, photography and videography, workshops and classes, events management, personality development, logo creation, illustrations, and animation. In working together to turn their dreams into reality. Get one step closer to elevating yourself and your business by contacting hello@mafemanagement.com. Let us empower you.
I have a question that I think a lot of caregivers with children have. My daughters were, I think, about 13 and 18. But how do you describe or help them have the patience? Because sometimes, it was more like I had siblings. She was a sibling to my 13-year-old daughter. And it was different that grandma was no longer the grandma she knew. Mm. What kind of advice do you have with, caregivers who are struggling with that? The identities seem to change, right?
Yes, for my husband, that's the same thing. Like I was saying, that he's going to continue to decline mentally. So for him, he's more. I was having it was kind of funny at points. It was like I heard him arguing with my kids, like my kids would argue with each other, and so I was like, this is like not okay. So it was just kind of an interesting thing because he was turning kid-like in his mind and arguing over things that I'm like, that's not like a dad-kid relationship. As far as that goes, one of the biggest things in my own mind was shifting my mentality from, although I am my husband's spouse, I'm his wife, in my mind, I had to make a mental shift of I am his caregiver. So that meant I need to insert myself and call the shots sometime and tell him, almost have moments where I'm like, you cannot do this, and talk to him in more of a decision-making, maybe even disciplinary way so that I could have peace in my home and organization. So switching that helped me to shift my expectations of my husband. So I had more compassion on what he was going through, but it also empowered me to be able to caregive and be a better spouse to him and a better mother, because I was standing in a place where I knew I had to make decisions, and I knew I needed to. I no longer had anyone to call the shots with me, so he and I would make a lot of decisions together. When I shifted to caregiver, I realized a lot of those decisions were just on me. I couldn't bounce them off of him. So I think from it doesn't matter what role you are in, whether that's your parent or your grandma that you're taking care of, or your kid. Even if it's your kid, you switch from, I've got to parent this kid differently, so I am his caregiver. So you're going to do things differently with that kid than you would with your other kids or other healthy kids. So making that mental shift was a huge thing for me to help my husband, and also to help me to be able to have patience in the caregiving.
That emotional management, I love that. We share that journey. How does emotional management help your children as they navigate their dad's journey?
Watching my children watching their dad not be able to be their dad, that was a pretty, we had to go through a lot of adjustments, a lot of grieving emotions with that. With my children specifically, I was able to buffer a little bit of that, because if he started to behave like childlike, I was able to tell my kids, like, hey, dad is not acting the way dad would normally act. This is not really how dad is. So I was able to kind of buffer some of those things, but that doesn't mean that they don't have their emotions. They don't have a dad that can go out and throw a baseball with them or whatever they want to do. I'm just using that because it's a pretty common thing. But with my children, they've had to process it, and we've all had to caregive for my husband and have compassion. So even for them, shifting their own mindset to seeing that, recognizing that their dad is maybe not behaving in the way that he used to, and just agreeing with him, or just kind of changing their own actions and their own behavior towards him. That was a big thing. So
yeah, that emotional management, I think, is the key, isn't it? Because once you understand and you practice that compassion, then the stress, the frustration. Because what do you think is the hardest thing for children to understand when they're because it's dad, it's grandma? What do you think is the number one struggle?
For me in particular, and same with even in a situation where it's the grandma, is looking at them like they're an adult. So and they are an adult. They are absolutely right. But that's where the compassion comes in, is that for me, I could see that my husband wasn't able to be the person that he used to be. So for me, for my children, helping them understand that to shift that in their own minds. So when my husband would say something, helping my kids with their emotions around that, surrounding who he is. I had to help them. Like, he is an amazing man. He's not behaving like he normally would. And so for children, I think that's the biggest thing, is understanding that, to be compassionate and to be loving towards that person. But it's not always easy, because it's hard to be patient with that person. It's hard because they will have temper tantrums, or they'll say things that are irrational, and it's hard for kids to differentiate that in their mind. I think it's important to allow kids to process that as well, because they might get their feelings hurt. But if you kind of guide them to if you're helping them understand it as well, it makes their process easier and smoother to go through.
Have you used the power of laughter in situations? I'm sure that helps.
We laugh quite a bit. Our whole family laughs quite a bit. My kids laugh just as much as me at my spouse. He's funny, and we all kind of like to have fun. But yes, it's been awesome. And even Reed, my husband, can laugh at himself. So when he has a short-term memory loss thing, we can laugh about it, instead of it being like, it's okay. Like, instead of it being like this sad thing, we can all just like laugh. Like, so like if my husband loses something, we're like, hey, what is it? What were you going to say? And then we all just start laughing because he can't find it and it's gone. Like it's just, yeah. So we laugh a lot about that stuff. And even with when he gets a mood swing, we laugh about that as well. Like, and it helps minimize his mood swings. So yes.
Can you share that in the most recent video? I just saw that and I thought it was hilarious, where he had his headphones. And then you're trying. He said this is the way that he communicates, where he's just on his phone, and it was just so funny.
Oh yeah, like, are you going to share the video, or you want me to tell you?
Oh no, I'd love you. Yeah, just to share that.
Okay, which one was it?
Well, he was on the sofa, and then he had his headphones on, and
I was tapping him.
Yeah, you were tapping his feet, and then he was tapping your feet.
Yeah, he had sent. So I walked back in one of the back bedrooms for a few minutes, and he texted me and said, will you come sit back out here with me? And so I walked back out, and I sat down, and I kept trying to talk to him. I'd walk out in the same room several times, actually. That wasn't the first time, but I came back out because he sent me that text, and I'm like, oh, he must want something. So I came out and I kept saying, read. And I actually, before I started videoing, I actually had tried to get his attention before that. So I'm like, I'm going to turn on my camera and just video this. So yeah. And then he didn't want to talk to me, and it was funny. And so moments like that, it's funny. It's fun because he just wanted me to be in the room. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of fun with that, even though he doesn't want to talk to me. But one thing I've thought about is that if he didn't have MS, I'd have a conversation with him and be like, well, that wasn't nice. Could we talk about that? But it's just funny because of what is going on with him, because he's so dang sweet, you know?
Well, I thought that was just so symbolic of how when you're the caregiver, you know, you're stopping in the, you know, whatever you're doing, you go in there, and then my mom would do that, Karen, and then nothing. I'm like, you called me. No,
Yes.
no, I didn't. Yes, you did. And then you have to realize the worst, Lindsay, was when she said, I don't have any children. That was a very hard one to do.
When she said that.
Yeah, no, I don't have any children. And I just thought, okay, I know I'm supposed to accept, but
Yep.
you do have to laugh and know that sometimes the truth won't be told. They're like, you know, Reed will call you in and he just wants maybe your presence, you know?
Yeah, he does. Sorry, hold on. Okay, sorry, one of my kids walked in. Is that okay?
Oh no, that's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to end with, so how it's just such a beautiful thing where you are navigating this parenting, caregiving, and now coaching.
Yeah, with the parenting, you know, with the parenting, it's been a challenge to adjust to single parenting, because I had to take on all of the roles of my husband. So when this all happened, it was, you're going to be the mom to your kids by yourself. You're going to be the full-time caregiver and the full-time provider of your family. And so taking on all of those roles was just so overwhelming at first and very difficult. But you know, through the process of it all, you kind of find a new norm. And then also with so my kids have learned to, one of the things that I've learned about my kids is that they are way more, they're smarter than we give them credit for. And they can do things that I didn't realize. Like, I think as parents, we want to protect our kids all the time. And I got to a place where I'm like, I actually have to go to work, and I cannot be the helicopter parent and make sure you guys are doing everything perfect and get your chores done. So they really had to pitch in and be responsible. And so that was one thing that I watched my kids, is that, man, we do not give kids enough credit for how smart they are and what amazing people they are. They can do so much. So, with that, there's that part. They've pitched in and helped. So it's helped me with my care, with my being able to see my spouse a lot, and being able to be their parent. They've been more of my companions than anything else. With the life coaching thing, one of the things that has been really fulfilling to me is coaching people who are in my same shoes, and they're a few years behind me, where they're feeling lonely and they're feeling sad and they don't know what to do. They're just feeling hopeless. And hopefully that's the last time. So there's people in my coaching program who were where I was at, and they don't know doctors aren't giving them the information they need, and they're just at a loss. I was going to say that there was one time that I Googled like MS and it affecting the memory and the brain. Like, I found one article that was slightly like, oh, it kind of affects the brain and kind of affects your memory, but I could only find one article on it. And now I think I could probably find more, but that was one of the things that I'm like, this affects people mentally. Like, my husband was affected mentally and still going to the gym consistently. So as far as the coaching, it's been fulfilling that I'm living my life normally, but I'm able to help other people. So with that, there's an energy that comes with knowing that you're able to provide other people with some sort of help, or even just support in the caregiving journey that they're on. And I can relate with them and be like, I was where you were at like 6 years ago in my life, and it's a lonely road. I don't want you to do that alone. So there's a lot of fulfillment that comes from the coaching and parenting, and also just with my spouse too. There's a lot of fulfillment in taking care of him. I know I don't have him full time now, but he's home quite a bit, and there's a lot of fulfillment in all of that. And so it's fun. And when you have something to look forward to wake up to, it makes life a lot brighter. So as far as all that goes, yes, it's really busy, but it's really fulfilling to be able to watch, to change your kids' lives, change your husband's life, and to change other people's lives, or maybe not change them, but facilitate in that.
Wow, it's a beautiful journey. Thank you so much for all you do. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best place to reach you?
You can go to my Instagram account at LouKelly06. The link in my bio will lead you to my caregiver support group and my autoimmune disease support group. You can go to either of those. My coaching programs will be listed there shortly, and you can go to any of those to sign up. I'm doing some online courses that will be posted as well, so you can purchase online courses on managing emotions surrounding your caregiving journey or your autoimmune disease, or even if it's not autoimmune, if it's something similar, it's all emotional management skills. So you can go to any of those and find my link in bio, all of those things.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. We really appreciate your time, and I just love how you're touching just thousands, literally hundreds of thousands of lives. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Hey, you too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.